if your community has experienced a suicide, and if you are a teacher, you are faced with the challenge of helping your students cope with the death of a classmate, a teacher, or someone else who is important to them. There are several important things to keep in mind. My name is Shashank Joshi, and I'm a professor of psychiatry, pediatrics, and education at the Stanford University School of Medicine and Graduate School of Education. I am here today with Serena Ojakian, who is a teacher and suicide prevention advocate. Serena, can you take us through your approach from your experience navigating that first day or two when you get the news that there's been a death involving a student or another school community member?
The goal of addressing students' death with them is to give students some understanding of what they are experiencing, to give them the ability to label their feelings and to let them know that they're not alone in having these feelings. The goal is to help them grieve, not to make the grief go away. There are several things to consider. Be honest with your feelings. This encourages students to express their own feelings and share what they're going through. If you are honest with yourself and with them, they will be honest with you.
And I imagine that in order to be in touch with your feelings, you need to first put that proverbial oxygen mask on yourself so that you can be present for your students, your staff, and I imagine even your administrators who might come to you for support.
Yes, exactly. You have to recognize that you're grieving too, right? Like you're part of this community and you need to take the time to take care of yourself in order to take care of your community. The proverbial oxygen mask, as you said.
Okay. So you're talking about the oxygen mask. I imagine it can feel overwhelming even with the oxygen mask if you feel like you're doing this all by yourself.
Oh, yes. You are definitely not doing it all alone. You do not have to do it alone. You have other community members, other staff, admin, like you said. There are school psychologists, school social workers. They are all there to help if you ever have anything that you are uncertain about, uncomfortable with. Ask someone else and they will totally step up and help you.
Thanks, Serena. You know, I can imagine for the people who are watching this that they may be in different settings. They could be in a K-12 setting. They could be in a higher ed setting. I think the students probably are going to have lots of different questions depending on who your students are. What's your experience been with that?
Well, first, just be aware of your limits of your knowledge. Students are for sure going to have lots of questions. They may raise questions about why it happened, what it feels like to die, any kind of question. For many of these, you will have no answer. It is important to ask what they think, right? Like, what do you think about this issue? For often, such questions represent worries, concerns that you can address more directly.
Or it might even be like, if you don't know the answer, I'm not sure, let's think through it together.
Exactly. And they can then address those questions with you, or you can even tell them to address it with their parents if that's more comfortable for them. So, depends on the kid and the age.
Okay. Serena, can you talk a little bit about how you might incorporate the concepts from social emotional learning, or SEL, into your grief support work if you're working, say, in a K-12 classroom?
Yes, I'm a big fan of SEL. It provides a great space for students to express their feelings, for them to grieve and not push the grief away, but accept it, to know that they might be feeling sad, they might be feeling angry, and that those feelings are all okay. It gives students space to have tears, to have that sadness, let them cry, let them express themselves. It gives the students space to understand that it's totally normal to cry, it's totally normal to be angry. That is all part of life at all times, and in particular when you're grieving.
I imagine that for some students, if they could have some structure around some of the outlets, you know, like there's a focused activity
Yes.
on grief or a way to remember the person.
Yes.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yes.
And then maybe talk about different ways that people grieve. I imagine it might not show up in all kids the same way those first few days.
Definitely does not. If you provide a space for them that they can have a specific activity, then they can really think on what they're processing, what they're feeling. And you can use physical activities, you can use art activities, writing, reading, you can incorporate it into anything. Incorporating SEL into your regular curriculum is so important. For over the following months, you're gonna need space for students to process. You don't know at what pace they are going to process. You can use reading, art, writing, anything can be themed around feelings.
Thank you, Serena. Very, very wise advice. Any other things you want to share around important things for educators to keep in mind as they move forward with their grief and help their students and school community to also cope with grief?
It's extremely important to maintain the routines that you already have. Maintain the classroom routines, the home routines. That structure brings security and regularity to the students. It prevents them from having more curveballs in their life. Don't rush anything. They are processing. You don't know at what pace they're going to process. One of the big things that's really important is to ask your students what they want to do with their classmates' desks, if it's a classmate. Don't just clean it up and get rid of it. That makes a student feel like they're
The memory is gone.
yeah.
It's just been erased.
They're unimportant, and that's not true. It's very untrue. You have to ask them, what do you guys want to do? Let's think about how we can process this together, and we're going to decide together and make sure that
decide together how we can honor this person's life.
Yes, yes, and processing it all together so that it's not like, whoop, it's gone, it's done. Nope, we're working through it. Students can build a sense of community and purpose through actions such as fundraising or having a club on campus, such as Bring Change to Mind, NAMI on Campus, Active Minds. Yeah, see, you know. Yeah, they're great things for students to do. Last but not least, recognize your platform. This is a time where you can have a very positive influence on your students. You can help them handle their grief, and some small or large way, this will help them in their future. Giving them permission to feel and share those feelings, to cry, to love, to care, will affect their life significantly.
Thank you, Serena. If someone you know is struggling emotionally or having a hard time, you can be the difference in getting them the help that they need. It's important to take care of yourself so that you can be there for others, because this can stir up difficult emotions. If watching this video has stirred up emotions, please reach out for support yourself through the resources that are listed below. Finally, this video is intended as educational content, and it's not supposed to replace care by a professional. Please be sure to contact your local either doctor, therapist, or suicide expert. Please call 988, which will connect you to your local resource for crisis support. If you prefer to text, there's the crisis text line. You can text any word to 741-741. This is also a 24/7 service that's free and confidential.